Right, it's just gone 12:30, so I think we'll make a start, and hopefully a few others will join as we go. Just to introduce myself, my name's Teresa Earle. I am one of the GP cancer leads that works to support East Locality, and kindly joined by Naomi here today, who's going to help me support the meeting. Who I think you all probably know from other webinars that have been done previously. So I'm going to take everyone through. Some people may have heard about this pilot that's coming and others may not. So we'll make a start and I'll go through the slides. Hopefully that won't take too long, and then please, there'll be time for questions. If you have any along the way, feel free to put them in the chat box, or at the end there'll be the opportunity to ask questions also. So this pilot is going to be starting on the 3rd of August, so in just under 2 weeks now in East Locality, and it's known as self-request chest X-ray. So if we are looking at the first slide, so if we so this is just a list of the content. So for your information, there'll be various documents that you might need to be aware of for the pilot. And next slide, please. So just to give you a bit of background, so the idea behind this is that a patient who meets certain criteria is able to just self-present at Washwood Heath Community Diagnostic Centre for a chest X-ray without a GP referral or seeing a GP. It's designed to try and kind of reduce barriers around getting access to X-rays and help with early diagnosis of lung cancer. And at the moment, this service runs in Manchester, Leeds and Leicester as business as usual. So we're starting it as a pilot. We're hoping that if it works well, it will then be rolled out to all of Birmingham and Solihull ICB. And effectively, it's a walk-in service. So the patient may have heard about the service from the community, seeing a poster from the pharmacy, but there'll also be a significant number of patients who we're hoping will have heard of it from practices as well, and that's where yourselves will come into this, which is why we're doing the webinar today. Next slide, please. So there's lots of people involved in setting up this pilot, from UHB, from imaging department, the administrators at the CDC, primary care. So we're all working together to set up this pilot. Next slide, please. So I think most practices in East will be aware of Washwood Heath Community Diagnostic Centre, where a lot of the services are available. This is where this pilot will run from, and it won't run at the other 2 centres in BSol currently. It'll just run at Washwood Heath. And although the service there runs, for most things, it runs 7 days a week, 8 till 8. For this service, it will run from Monday to Friday, 8 to 6. And Saturday 9 to 1. So we're starting with those hours and we'll see how it goes, and we'll keep everyone updated if we change the hours. Next slide, please. So probably the next 2 slides are probably the key slides to know for anyone front of door receiving calls or when patients come to the desk at surgeries, for admin staff, for receptionists. It'll be really clear, key to know which patients will be eligible that you can signpost to this service. So in terms of eligibility, there's 4 key points. That the patient has to be equal to or above 40 years old. They have to be registered with a BSol GP, which hopefully they will be if they're coming to your practice. They have to have had no chest imaging in the 3 months before, so no CT or chest X-rays. And they have to have one of a list of criteria for 3 or more weeks. So if I show you the next slide, this will show you what the symptoms are. So if a patient has any of these 7 symptoms for 3 or more weeks, they can use this service. If they're over 40, they haven't had another chest imaging, you can signpost them directly to have a chest X-ray. Next slide, please. In terms of, so this is a busy slide, I won't go into it, but effectively you'll have access to these slides. It just talks about what will actually happen for the patient. So if you send a patient to Washwood Heath and they're happy to go, when they arrive, they would complete a registration form there with the information, their personal details, their GP practice, what symptom they have. That'll be checked by the administrator there. They'll then see the radiographer who will check that they're eligible, and they'll have their chest X-ray. So what happens next is that these chest x-rays, obviously at that time, the GP practice won't be aware they've had one if the patient just presents. So the chest x-rays will then be reported as normal, as any other GP requested x-ray would be. And on the day that the patient attends for their x-ray, an email will be sent to the practice. So they have a list at Washwood Heath of all the email addresses for all the practices, and they'll send yourselves an email to say, you know, one of your patients came today, this patient came to have this chest x-ray, and you'll receive the report within 7 to 14 days. We're asking at that point that in the practice there's some system for putting a note on the patient record to say patient attended for self-refer chest x-ray, so that there's no code for it, there's no SNOMED code, but to put an entry on the record so that if the patient does contact the surgery before the report's received and asks about the report, it saves confusion with people going on the system and saying, oh no, we can't see anything, you've never had a chest x-ray. So when you receive the email notifying you the patient's attended, we're asking for we think it'd be a good idea to put a little entry on the record just to say patient attended with self-referred chest x-ray. And then when the report is received, it will come through to the surgery via the ICE. So it will come to your ICE inbox. As it hasn't been requested by a particular GP, it will then be up to the surgery and how your workflow works for secretaries to allocate that report to one of the GPs to review it and action it. And then the GP will have a look at the report and probably take one of three actions: either ask to see the patient face to face, or do a telephone call, or send a text to the patient. So even if it's a normal chest x-ray, because the patient might have attended with tiredness or a neck lump or something else, it's important that the patients are followed up. So we're asking as a minimum a text to be sent to say, we've had your report, please see the GP for review if you've still got any symptoms. Next slide, please. So this is our poster that has been designed that's going to go up in the community, but we're also hopefully we'll be sending this out electronically to all the surgeries. And if we can, we're trying to also get together a few hard copies to send out to yourselves. And we'd be very grateful if possible to get this on to put it up in the surgery, get it on your website, just so people can start to hear about the service. Next slide, please. So this, just for your information, if patients ask, this is the form that patients would receive if they turn up at Washwood Heath. So they'll have to tick different boxes, fill out their personal information. So that's the registration form. Next slide, please. Here is, we've included a shot of the leaflet. So when the patient attends, they'll be given a leaflet after they have their x-ray, and it's like a safety netting leaflet. And it's very clear on there that the x-ray the report should be with the GP in 1 to 2 weeks. And we're encouraging them there, if they have the app, that they can look on the app for their report. But we're also very clear that if they have any ongoing symptoms, they must see the GP with the review of their report. Next slide, please. This is just for you to see. Basically, it's the template. We're going to use the email template to send to yourselves if one of your patients attends for an x-ray. This is what it'll look like, the email that you'll receive to let you know about their attendance. Next slide, please. So I have already mentioned this, but obviously when you receive this email notification to the practice, we are strongly encouraging making some kind of note on the patient record, so staff are aware that the patient's been for a chest x-ray, a self-referred chest x-ray, and that you're waiting for the report. And then also having a system, which I imagine most surgeries will already have, for checking the ICE inbox and then allocating the report to a GP for review once it's received at the practice. And then the GP would then action the report as they would any other chest x-ray. Next slide, please. In terms of the outcome from the x-ray, really there's one of three outcomes. So if there's something on the chest x-ray that is suspicious of a lung cancer, that will be directed straight into the DXCT pathway in secondary care. So in primary care, you would receive notification to say, you would receive the report, but you wouldn't have to then refer the patient on. They'd go straight into the pathway. If there's other things on the non-cancer, but other things on the chest x-ray, such as COPD signs, emphysema, then we would ask the GP to follow it up as they would any other chest X-ray. And thirdly, like I said, if it was reported as normal, then because of some of the symptoms that they could have gone with for the X-ray, it's important that some follow-up is done. As a minimum, a text is sent to the patient. Next slide, please. This is a kind of template we've put together just of a text message that could be sent to patients with normal chest X-rays, just advising them that they didn't see, there was no issue with the lung or the heart seen, but if they're still having symptoms, that they need to contact to make an appointment. Next slide, please. So I think almost coming to near the end, but in terms of next steps, so these are the key things that I could think of that we would kind of ask, if possible, for yourselves to be involved with in the next few weeks as we go to launch. One is that if possible, we feel that it's important for all staff in the practice to know about this. So that includes the receptionists and front of house staff, or people who would take triage calls in the morning. It's very important if they know about it and they have someone, who turns up with 3 weeks of a cough, they can just say, like you would direct people to pharmacy, you could say, you can just go and have a chest X-ray and that'll be followed up that way. So sharing this information with all the practice staff. We have run a separate session for GPs, so we're hoping that they're aware of the program, but some of them may not be if they haven't been able to attend the webinars. In terms of the posters, we're asking if possible to put it up in the surgery, both hard copies and also on the website if you have a website. It would be really helpful for us also if there was an option to send one text to patients within probably after the 3rd of August, as everything launches, once the service is open, just informing them that this service is now open and these are if you have these things, you can go for a chest X-ray, so they know about the service. Obviously within practices, making sure that you discuss what your system will be for monitoring in terms of the reports coming in. And then in terms of concerns, so I will be I will be the contact person if there are any concerns from yourselves, from anyone in primary care around this service and how it's running. Then my details are at the end of this presentation, and I would encourage you to email myself and I can help hopefully to resolve the issues. Next slide, please. So I've just broken it down into kind of receptionists and then secretarial staff. So for receptionists, having an awareness of the service, so anyone who comes to the desk, makes a call, sends in an e-consult, that you're aware of people that can be directed to this service if they meet the eligibility criteria, and encouraging patients that they'll have a same-day X-ray, the GP will receive their report, and then they can be followed up from there. I've produced, I think on the next, one other thing we would ask is, what might be helpful is if in reception you have some little card or sheet ready for patients, because not everyone might be aware of where Wash with Heath is or what hours they can turn up. So maybe something there that you can just hand to the patient and say, have you thought about this service? Would you like to just go for an X-ray? Here's the information of where to go and when you can go. Next slide, please. And for the staff at reception, I thought it might be a good idea to maybe print this out, or you can redo it however you like, but to have the information to hand of exactly what, so patient, to remind yourself, you have to be 40, you haven't had chest imaging, you've got one of these symptoms, and to have the symptoms so that you could know what to say to patients and don't have to kind of keep it all in your head. So that was just a suggestion. Next slide, please. And then in terms of medical secretaries, so I've already mentioned, when the email's received, having some system just to put a little added entry onto the record, so staff know that the patient's been for the X-ray and we're waiting for the report. Some kind of system for the ICE inbox review and allocating reports to GPs, because the reports won't have a named GP on them. And also it may be the GP that needs to do this, but sending a text to the patient if there is a normal report to make sure they still have follow-up. And some system if the patient, if the patient needs to be reviewed by a GP, to then book them in. Next slide, please. So this is the number. So if you get patients coming to the practice saying, look, I had my self-request chest x-ray, and you say, well, we haven't received any report, there's no record, and it's after 2 weeks of them having it, these are the contact numbers at the Washwood Heath CDC that you can call directly, and they can then look to check, oh yes, your patient did attend, or see what's happening with the report. Next slide, please. And this is my email address, and I will be the person. We're very keen. We're hoping the pilot will run for a 6 to 9 month period, and then hopefully with a view to extending that across Birmingham and Solihull. So if you have any issues that aren't working, any kind of questions, feedback, queries, please do email myself. I'm more than, that will be my role to take that feedback. So please do email myself. Next slide, please. Just before we take questions, what I should say also is I know language can be an issue in East Birmingham in terms of, if a patient turned up at the service and didn't understand the service and so on. So there will be Word 360 kind of access available there in terms of translation, or if the patient comes with a relative. We are working to put the information, so the poster and the leaflets that they'll need to fill out when they get to Washwood Heath in the key languages. That we're working with community organisations, and they've advised us on the kind of main languages they feel that we need the materials to be in. So we're working on that, and we're also hoping to produce a video shortly for patients as well that they could be signposted to, that just explains what will happen when they go. I think that's it on the slides front. So now I think I'm going to open the floor. Maybe we can just come out the presentation and take any questions from anyone, and we'll have a look at the chat box and see if there's anything there. Does anyone have any questions? Please feel free to raise your hand, and then you can ask if anyone has any questions. I don't think there's anything in the chat that I can see. Any questions at all from anyone about the service, how it'll run, any of the kind of primary care related or admin side of things?
I have one question, Teresa.
Yes, Naomi.
If with the referral form, will the receptionist be able to just keep them at the front desk and give them to the patients, or does the patient have to go to Washwood Heath to get a referral form? Like, how does that work?
So that's a good question. I think we did discuss it at our last meeting, with, yes, having the option to have forms at reception, so that, on the route or whatever, patients can then turn up with the information. So I think that I just have to clarify that with the rest of the group, but I think that should be, if that turns out to be something that everyone's in agreement with, then we could include this. We're planning to send out a pack to each surgery digitally, which will have the poster and the various bits of information, and we can also then include the registration form. Thanks, Naomi. That's a good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Can see, I think Parmjit is typing something. Oh yeah, just detail. So I think if everyone's put their information in the chat in terms of email address, we will definitely make sure that within the next week or so, we send out to yourselves the slides from this presentation, and we'd be really grateful if you can disseminate those, or you might want to just look through those with the rest of the staff at the practice, so people are aware of how everything will work. But we do know that in Leeds, actually, quite a good proportion of their x-rays are done on patients who have been sent from GP surgeries, rather than patients who see things in the community. So actually, it a bit like pharmacy first and being able to direct patients to pharmacies. We're hoping that this should cut out maybe an initial GP appointment where patients can just be directed by yourselves at front of door straight to the service. Don't think there's any questions at all. So hopefully that was clear for everyone. So I think we'll have a record of How long is the pilot for? So it's going to go live on the 3rd of August, and we're going to review at the kind of 6-month mark. Well, we'll be reviewing all the time to look at numbers, because obviously the workload this generates, we're very aware that we don't want this to be a dump on primary care. So we're going to be reviewing numbers as we go along. But we're hoping that at the 6 to 9 month mark, we'll then be able to decide if the pilot becomes kind of a service that's available across BSol. Right. Please, if you have any further questions or you think of anything afterwards, just email myself. We will circulate the slides to everyone who's been here today. And then also, if within your PCNs, if there are other practices that you know haven't been able to attend, please also feel free to pass on the slides to them, or they can contact myself also for information. I think on that note, just to thank everyone for attending, and looking forward to working with everyone on this pilot. Thank you very much, everyone.